right, so Giannis had a monster game against the Chicago Bulls, went for 41 points to go along with 9 rebounds and 8 assists in that particular game. Now, the Bucks this season have been underwhelming, not just this season, but also last season. They're still trying to navigate this entire Giannis and Damian Lillard situation. It's really been an ugly stint here so far, not just on the court stuff, but even as far as the coaching staff goes, having to get rid of Mike Budenholzer, then going into Adrian Griffin, and then going into Doc Rivers. Just a really strange situation. And it also doesn't help that there was a revolving door of role players over the last couple of seasons. Drew Holiday's out. Now you're dealing with a different set of role players around guys like Giannis and Dame. Then you're also accounting for the Chris Middleton stuff. He is pretty much your third all-star, and he has not been present for the most part of these last couple of seasons. So things have been relatively ugly here for this Buck squad. I've always said this. I've been pretty disappointed at how they followed up that 2021 NBA championship. I thought they were good enough, and I thought Giannis was dominant enough for them to ring off at least multiple finals appearances since then, and nothing's really come of it. But individually, Giannis and what he has been doing, it's been great. This is now his third consecutive season of putting up 30 points per game or more with double-digit rebounds and also very, very solid assist numbers. One of the most underrated parts of Giannis's game that people do not really talk as much about is his playmaking. He is so good at making reads, making these like cross-court skip passes, either in half court and transition, finding shooters out on the wing. He is one of the most underrated playmakers in the entire league. And that's not just a development this season. That's been that way for the last couple of years. Giannis, as much as people try to talk about him as if he's not a skill player, is an amazing playmaker and is just one of the most underrated at that in the entire league. If we put together a list of like the top 10 players in the NBA right now, Giannis is, in my opinion, one of the better playmakers in that top 10. That's how good I think he is in that particular category. Last season, I think he was around 6.5 assists per game. And this season, pretty much at that number. I believe it's 5.9 as I'm recording this. I'd have to go back and check. But Giannis's playmaking as like this power forward, hybrid power forward type of playmaker or type of player has been really something to see. And that's another thing to talk about. Giannis's development offensively has kind of been forgotten about, and rightfully so. A lot of people have been paying attention to the drama going on in the Bucks front office or the coaching situations and all of this stuff, and even some of the drama that Giannis may bring on himself. But with all of that, all those different storylines, if we take those out, if we silence them and pay attention to what Giannis is doing individually, he has taken a lot of leaps and bounds as an offensive player. He is a much better, more polished offensive force than what he was in 2021, where he was arguably at his most dominant. The most interesting development in Giannis's game, and you know what I'm about to say, is the mid-range game. He has become so confident in his ability to pull up from the mid-range area, not just with jumpers, but also attacking from there. He looks so comfortable in that particular area of the floor. It looks like Giannis is just continuing to get better at knowing where his attack points are, right? Those are the keys of being a lethal scorer, is knowing what those attack points are. The jumper, he looks so much more confident. He's pulling up without hesitation. A couple of weeks ago, he had a 59-point game. And if you look at the shot chart in that game, a lot of those looks were from the mid-range area. And I always said that about Giannis. A lot of people talk about Giannis and say things like, well, he needs to develop a three-point jump shot. I never thought that Giannis had to become an amazing three-point shooter. I never thought that he was going to get there. There were some years where maybe percentage-wise, he teased us a bit with his ability to be a long-range sniper. That never truly came to fruition at a super high level. So I never thought Giannis had to get there as a knockdown three-point shooter. But he was going to have to get some finesse in his game. He was going to have to get a reliable jumper at some point. And it looks like we are at that point where Giannis has developed that. Again, it's not a super long distance three-point shot, but at least him having some mid-range game would make him that much more of a threat to defenses. So if defenders want to sag off on him, he now has this thing where he can pull up off this little hezzy hang dribble and knock down that jumper from like the top of the key or one of the side mid-range areas on the floor. Love his confidence in his shooting ability. That is a massive development in his game that we have just seen him continue to get better at over the last couple of years. And that has been pretty much the biggest storyline surrounding Giannis individually as a basketball player this season, is how much better he got as a mid-range scorer. And also just even his back to the basket stuff as well. He's always had that in his game, but he just continues to get polished in that area of the floor, just continuing to become this great, polished all-around scorer. For a guy who's been like 28 points per game plus over the last couple of seasons, for him to continue to get better and continue to round out his scoring bag and his offensive game, it is very telling. Say whatever you want about Giannis, right? Talk about him, whether or not you like him as an individual, if you like how he is as a leader right now, because there have been a lot of different things coming out about that, how you think about him and his relationship with coaches. Say what you want about all of that. One thing we cannot question is Giannis's commitment to the game, and it is evident through how he has grown as a player. Simple as that. One thing you cannot say is that Giannis is the exact same player as he was in 2021. Now, that can change possibly once playoff time rolls around and if the Bucks are good enough at that point to get into the postseason. And I would put money on the fact that they would be at that level come springtime. But we'll see how much this mid-range stuff can truly translate on that level. Because again, we've seen Giannis tease us with this like super advanced, polished offensive stuff. We've seen it in spurts during the regular season. And there have been times where come playoff time, it gets limited a little bit. So we'll see just how translatable this mid-range stuff is come postseason time. But again, it's been awesome seeing him just continue to develop this particular part of his game. This has been something that I've always thought he needed to add to his bag. Again, it was never about him being this dynamic 40% three-point shooter. I never thought that was going to happen. It was about him at least having reliable kill spots outside of just attacking in transition, because obviously that ends up getting turned down a bit come playoff time. Transition opportunities get limited. Seeing him get this mid-range attack in his game has been awesome. And there's also such a versatility in how coaches can use Giannis. So offensively, he really is a coach's dream. You can use him as an orchestrator in transition. Once you're in the half court, you can use them in a number of ways. We saw tonight where they'd kind of have Giannis camping at the wing. Maybe Dame would attack his defender, pitch to Giannis, and Giannis would dribble attack right off of that pass. So there's the ability to attack from the three-point line over to the basket from out in the perimeter. Then, as I mentioned, you can also put him as a pick and roll threat, and you can also have him as kind of an orchestrator in the half court, getting to the top of the key, getting to that mid-range bucket, or posting him up, getting him kind of that mid-post, mid-range area, and having him go from there. So again, a coach's dream is to be able to have a guy where you can play him in multiple positions and put him on the court in multiple spots offensively. And that is something that you can do with Giannis. Such a great all-around threat. Again, a lot of negative storylines surrounding the Bucks, rightfully so. But with Giannis, seeing him continue to get better individually as a player has been awesome. And I can't wait to see how consistent he can stay as this season progresses and as the Bucks look to try to round out and become actual title contenders for the first time in this entire Damian Lillard and Giannis era.